So chapter 22 is just to introduce you to the diversity of bacteria and archaea. You will get exposed to this in way more detail when you go on, and a lot of you going into healthcare will wind up taking Bio 205 microbiology. I'm just going to go through and tell you about the wide diversity of bacteria out there. So just kind of sit back and relax. I won't ask you about this stuff. So here's an archaea, and it lives at Yellowstone National Park. It's all this yellow and blue stuff, and it's growing in hot springs. So some of these archaea were here on early Earth, and they still live in these very extreme environments where most organisms would die. This is a hydrothermal vent deep in the ocean. And so hot water starts a lot of life's processes through chemical activity by bacteria rather than by sunlight making photosynthesis. And so here's a bacterial mat over a hydrothermal vent. And then here's a blow up under the microscope of some of the bacteria that are actually doing a process called chemosynthesis, making food using the energy of heat. Stromatolites are some of the oldest living organisms on Earth. This is Shark Bay, Australia. And in Shark Bay, Australia, here are living stromatolites, mats of bacteria. And here is Montana, where you have fossilized stromatolites. So these living stromatolites tell you what these fossilized stromatolites are. And some of these fossilized stromatolites are billions of years old, and these in Montana lived 1.5 billion years ago. Again, Yellowstone National Park, and this is blue-green algae that lives near the hot springs. Here is a prokaryote that can tolerate ionizing radiation. So a lot of bacteria can live and survive in conditions that would kill other kinds of cells. These are bacteria that will live in the Dead Sea, which is extremely saline. The Great Salt Lake, some of you are familiar with near Salt Lake City, and there are bacteria that will live in the Great Salt Lake. So here's a blow up of the bacteria. We're going to grow bacteria not on blood plates, but on agar plates. And you'll see bacterial colonies. Colonies are groups of millions of bacteria that are growing on the plates. Here's an electron micrograph showing you different kinds of bacteria. Here are bacteria that are kind of like a ball. They're called cocci shaped. Here are bacteria that are long and oval shaped. They're called rod shaped. And some bacteria even spin like a corkscrew, and those are called spirella. They're spiral shaped. And this is what we looked at before, showing you that within the bacteria there's DNA, there's a plasma membrane. Around the outside is a cell wall. Some bacteria even have cilia and flagella as well. They say these are pili. Pili they're not involved in motility. Instead, pili help bacteria stick and grab onto different things. Bacteria have ribosomes that help them manufacture proteins just like all organisms. So the domain eukarya is multicellular organisms plus many single-celled organisms. But the domain archaea and bacteria are single-celled eukarya, single-celled organisms that are a much simpler kind of cell. This is salmonella, which can cause typhoid fever. This is the scenes of the Great Plagues of Europe, and they say that's caused by a bacteria called Yersinia pestis. This is showing that there are areas where antibiotic resistance has led to reemergence of diseases. And as we all know from the COVID virus, new diseases are constantly emerging as well. Now that's a viral disease, COVID, not bacterial. Lyme disease is spread by ticks. So here's the bullseye rash that's typical of Lyme disease, and here are the spirella bacteria found within the ticks. Foodborne pathogens. So here are some vegetable sprouts, and then they're showing that there was an E. coli outbreak on those vegetable sprouts. Okay. Here's just a scanning electron microscope showing a kind of Staph aureus that's resistant to antibiotics. Here is a soybean plant, and on the roots there are what are called nodules. And soybeans are able to take nitrogen out of the atmosphere and put nitrogen into the soil. Before there were artificial nitrogen fertilizers, farmers rotated their crops, so high value crops like corn and cotton would deplete the soil of nitrogen, and then they'd grow things like peanuts and beans that were lower in value but put nitrogen back into the soil. That's a bacteria that does that. This is an organism called Clostridium difficile. So it's an antibiotic-resistant organism that people have difficulty getting rid of if they have infections. Some food products are made by microorganisms. When cheese is made from milk, when wine is made from grapes, when beer is made from barley, those are all things that involved bacteria. When yogurt is made from milk. So bacteria aren't all bad. There are good reasons for bacteria. They're trying to do bioremediation. They're trying to figure out what kind of bacteria they can engineer to eat up oil spills.